Uganda will remain the part of Africa.
My name's Rob Brown, I'm an operations manager for Wilmot Dixon. I've just come back from a trip to Uganda to look at some borehole projects that we've supported via our carbon offsetting. I was lucky enough to be accompanied by Kerry Ray, who works for ICO. ICO are one of our supply chain partners in the business.
For the past 12 years, ICO as a group have been offsetting carbon, and subsequently we were invited to go and visit some of the impact we've had in Uganda, and it turned out Wilmot Dixon were also on the same trip. We'd always known that our values were aligned, but when you come across these things that we're both doing in isolation, it again reaffirms why we work together.
The borehole projects are the boreholes that are existing in local communities, and they're either in disrepair or they've not been maintained. So we as a business support a company called CO2 Balance, who then go and repair and maintain the boreholes and then create committees with the local community to make sure that they're maintained to a high standard to allow the communities to use them. The way this offsets the carbon is that if they didn't have access to clean drinking water, they would have to boil water from rivers or contaminated sources to allow it to be drinkable. Essentially, it's stopping the need to burn firewood, which in turn creates carbon emissions. If we weren't supporting these projects, these local communities would have to travel up to 5 kilometres a day to fetch clean drinking water.
So if you can imagine, they don't have access to water. So to go up to a tap and turn it on and get clean water that isn't going to make them ill and sick is unbelievable.
There was a lady called Margaret who used to collect the water for her family. She no longer needs to do that because the borehole was right on her doorstep. She was a very happy person. She's now growing her own crops locally to feed her family. And I think the impact that our offsetting has had on Margaret probably is something I remember the most out of my trip.
Off the back of being able to access water and freeing up their time, they're able to produce crops, excessive amounts of crops that they can then sell, which then will generate income for the families to the point of being able to fund the children to go back into education. That meant so much. Education is really the only way they're going to get out of the poverty that they're in at the moment.
Some people criticise carbon offsetting and say it's a bit of a get out of jail free card to get rid of your carbon emissions, but clearly it's more than that. This is affecting people's lives in the local community, and it's not just about the carbon emissions, it's about providing clean drinking water. As a business, we've reduced our carbon emissions over the last few years, so we've actually got a relatively low amount of carbon emissions now. This is essentially just a nice to have, and we continue to invest in these companies to try and make a difference to people's lives.
You know, when you come home and you see the excesses of everything that we do, it's a bit of a reality check, if I'm honest.
I look at what we're lucky enough to have in this country and what I'm lucky enough to have in my family, and you see what they don't have. It really does hit home as to how these people struggle.